Okay, we're still talking about graphing. Now, remember last time we said if our equation was solved for y, that coefficient of the x value is the slope. So now they're saying, well, then what does this constant number represent? It is the y-intercept. That's really going to be huge. If I have an equation solved for y, I know a point and the slope. Remember last time how easy it was to graph those things when we knew a point and a slope? A point and a slope. I could get a whole bunch of points real quick. So if our equation is solved for y, we'll be able to graph them pretty easily. Okay, so this one says using the slope and y-intercept. So if it says that on a test, you got to use the slope and y-intercept. That means if I'm going to use the slope and y-intercept method instead of just the plane intercept method, that's what we used last time. We found the x-intercept and the y-intercept. I can also use the slope and the y-intercept. To do this method, it's got to be solved for y. So if I'm going to solve this equation for y, right, then I'd have 2y equals negative x minus 4, divide everything by 2. So I would have y equals negative 1/2 x. If there's not a number there, it's understood to be a 1, minus 2. Okay, if my equation is solved for y, this number is the y-intercept, right? So I know the y-intercept is at 0, -2. That's this point right here. And my slope is negative 1/2. That means go down 1 and over 2. Or I could go up 1 and backwards 2. Either way, I can get a whole bunch of points real quickly and draw my line through it. Ta-da! Now, with that being said, what I want us to get out of this is I want us to do equations the easiest way possible. And if your x and y are on the same side of the equal sign, I think the intercept is easier. Imagine if x is 0, so that's gone. If x is 0, then y has to be -2, and you get a point right there. If y is 0, if that's gone, x has to be -4. And look, I could draw my line. Now, if your equation is already solved for y, this is easier. There's the y-intercept, and there's the slope. Either way, you get the same answer. But notice, if I would have used the intercept method up here, I wouldn't have had to do any of this algebra. I could just look up here, think about covering that up, and then covering that up. So really, I would like us to do, now I got to follow instructions and get appropriate practicing of each one, but in the long run, when you're graphing later on, do it the easiest method. Now this one asks us to do it with the slope intercept, and it's definitely what I would do, right? I definitely want to do it with the slope intercept because I don't have to do any math over here. I can just draw the answer right away because I know that's the y-intercept. So the point 0, 3. Don't forget that's a point. Don't just say it's 3 if you're asked what it is. It's the point 0, 3. So there's a point right there. And the slope is -1/4. So -1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if I did the 1 positive, I would need the 4 to be negative. 1, 2, 3, 4. The only way you can get a negative number is if one of them's negative. If they're both negative, you'd get a positive number right there. I can also check my line. If my slope is negative, it better be going down. Okay, but look, now if we have these equations that's already solved for y, I can just draw the answer. Don't have to do a bunch of algebra over on the side. Okay, now like this one, it tells us to use the slope intercept, but in reality, I would not use the slope intercept on this problem. Okay, so I'm going to do it that way first. If x was 0, imagine that's not there. Y is -1. So I have a point right there. If y is 0, I would divide by 7. So x is 3/7. Okay, so that's what I would do in reality to graph that. But it tells us to use the slope and y-intercept. So I'm going to solve this for y just for practice at it because I need to know how to use the slope and y-intercept. Divide by -3. So I have y equals negative is positive, and a positive negative is negative. Okay, so there's my y-intercept, which we got that from before. But now I can go up 7 and over 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So either way, I want to be able to do both ways fairly quickly. Okay. All right. So here's the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, where m is always your slope. Okay, if you're asking why isn't it s, the French beat us to naming it, right? So that's why it's m. And b is the y-intercept. It's the point 0b. Now here's another equation. So we got to memorize this. We got to know the formula for slope for the test. We got to know the slope-intercept form of an equation, and we got to know the point-slope form of an equation. Okay? So this is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Actually, if I have trouble memorizing that, it's really the formula for the slope. So if I can get that down, look, if I just got rid of that fraction, if I multiplied both sides by this denominator, then I would have the x sub 2 minus x sub 1 over here, and that would cancel. That's what that is. Okay, I'm going to use this information, though, to help me write equations of lines. Notice now, it's not telling me to graph anything. It's saying write the equation of the line. To write the equation of the line, any line, I have to have a slope and a point, a slope and a point. So I've got a slope and I've got a point. Okay. If the point it gives me is the y-intercept, oh, I'm set, because here's one of my forms for an equation of the line, and actually that's the way we're going to leave all our answers. Because remember how easy it is to graph. I know everything about this graph. If it's like this, I know where it's located and I know its slope. Without even graphing it, I know what the graph looks like. Okay, if the point it gives me is the y-intercept, I can plug right into my final answer. So the slope is 2, and the y-intercept is -3. Okay. Now, if the point it gives me is not the y-intercept, that's what that other equation is for. And here's the other equation. So I got to memorize these. Okay, so that's where I'm going to plug the slope. And these with the little subscript, that's where the coordinate parts are going to go. The x and the y is going to stay x and a y. All right, so plugging in, I have y minus the y part of the coordinate, x, y, the y part of the coordinate. Now be careful, there's a minus in the formula, and my number's negative, so I got to make sure I get both of them in there. Y minus the y part of the coordinate equals m is the slope, times x minus the x part of the coordinate. Okay, stupid double signs. I'm going to get rid of those double signs. And fraction in an equation? No, not having that. Let's get rid of that fraction. Multiply everything by 5, not inside parentheses, remember. So I have 5y plus 20 equals 2 times x minus 3. Let's distribute and get rid of those parentheses. 5y plus 20 equals 2x minus 6. Okay. Now we're going to leave all of our answers in slope-intercept form, so I need to solve for y. So undo what's being added or subtracted first. So 5y plus 0 equals 2x minus 6 minus 20 minus 26. Divide by 5. So y equals 2/5 x minus 26/5. It's an x there. Okay, still just asking me to write an equation of the line. To write an equation of the line, I got to have a point and a slope. Point and a slope. This gave me 2 points. I need a point and a slope. Oh, right. If I have 2 points, I can find the slope. So first thing, let's find the slope. 6 minus 4. Started here, so start here. Negative 2 minus 1. 6 minus 4 is 2. So negative 2/3. So now I have 2 points in a slope. You can use either one you want. I'm going to use the one with no negatives, right? Or no fractions, or smaller numbers. Use the one that makes your math the easiest. Because the point is not the y-intercept, I got to use that other formula, point slope. Point slope, that's what I need. Y minus the y part of the point equals m times x minus the x part of the point. Now, I'm just going to solve that for y. Get rid of fractions, not inside parentheses. So I have 3y minus 12 equals negative 2 times x minus 1. Get rid of parentheses. Distribute that negative 2. Okay, solving for y. I want it y equals, this one says give the final answer in standard form. I will never tell you to do that on a test. And we haven't even talked about standard form yet. Here's standard form. AX plus BY equals C. A, B, and C have to be whole numbers, and A cannot be negative. So if it tells me to leave it in standard form, a couple of homework problems will, but we're going to do this. I'll do it in standard form so you'll know what to do, but also in slope-intercept form because that's what we're going to want on the test. That's really what we always want. Standard form just looks better. It's more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so if it tells me to leave it in standard form, I'm going to put my x and y on the same side instead of solving for y. So I'm going to move my x over. Which will give me 2x plus 3y minus 12 equals 2. And then move the constants to the other side. So 2x plus 3y equals 14. So that's standard form. Now, if we wanted slope-intercept form, remember we would solve for y and have y equals. That's what the test is going to ask you to do on every one. Okay, we're still writing equations of lines, but remember this from last time? Horizontal line has an equation with a y equals the number, vertical line x equals. Okay, so if I'm asked to write an equation of the line that goes through this point but has an undefined slope, I got to think about that. Wait a minute, undefined slope. If it's undefined, it means it's so steep it's vertical. Okay, that means it's going through the x-axis. That means my equation is x equals the x part of the number. If it has a zero slope, that means it's horizontal. It's not sloping up or down at all, right? It's flat, which means it goes through y. So my equation is y equals the y part. Remember, everything about these special ones, all that other stuff, I kind of say, oh, never mind, this is special. I just got to think it through. That stuff doesn't apply because I cannot plug undefined into that point slope formula, right? When it's for M, you can't write undefined. So I just got to think about what's happening when there are special lines. Okay, write an equation of the line passing through the given point that satisfies the given condition. Slope-intercept form, yay. Oh, the line is parallel to this. Here's the information on slope they're giving us. Remember to write the equation of a line, unless it's special. I got to have a point and a slope, a point and a slope. So once again, if it didn't give me the slope, I got to find it. So solve this for y. So that means I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, right? So that we would have negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 10. Divide everything by negative 3. So at this point, I know my slope is 2/3. So now I have a slope and a point. Plug into that point slope formula. Y minus the y part of the point equals m times x minus the x part of the point. Make sure you get all your negatives in there. Let's get rid of the fraction. And as we rewrite it, let's also get rid of those stupid double signs. So this would be 3y minus 9 equals 2 times x plus 8. Get rid of the parentheses. 3y minus 9 equals 2x plus 16. Okay, now slope-intercept form. So we're solving for y. Let's put all the numbers on the other side. 3y equals 2x plus 25 and divide everything by 3. So here's my equation. Y equals 2/3 x plus 25/3. Okay, they're saying do it again. Same thing. It's saying write the equation. It's giving me a point and a way to find the slope. So let's solve this for y. Is this the same equation? So y, oh, I don't care what the equation is. I'm looking for the slope. And once it's like this, I know that my slope is positive 2/3. I'm just curious. I'm going to back up a minute. Now you can see why I always have to erase that first. 2x minus 3y equals 10. And 2x minus 3y equals 10. It just gave us a different point, but the same equation. Okay, so y minus the y coordinate equals m times x minus the x coordinate. Let's get rid of the fraction and the stupid double signs. 3y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 2. So get rid of the parentheses. 3y minus 3 equals 2x plus 4. Add 3. 3y equals 2x plus 7, and divide by 3. So y equals 2/3 x plus 7/3. Okay. Suppose there is a flat rate of 20 cents plus a charge of 10 cents per minute to make a phone call. Right, remember those days? You probably don't remember those days. Write an equation that gives the cost y for a call of x minutes. Okay, so the cost is y, so we're going to write y equals, and it says put the minutes in x. If it's 10 cents per minute, the way I would write that is 10 cents times x for every minute. This is 10 cents for every minute. If you talk 2 minutes, 10 cents times 2, 20 cents. Right? Plus, but then there's this flat rate, just 20 cents. That's it. That's your equation. Right? Notice it's in slope-intercept form. Okay? One more time. Use the ordered pairs. 9, 255, it's telling us 2009 was 255, and 11, 262, to find an equation that models the data. So it says find an equation. Okay, we're working with linear equations, so I need a point and a slope. It gives me 2 points. That means I can find the slope. Okay, so I'm going to say 262 minus 255 over 11 minus 9. So that is, what is that, 7 over 2? Now that I have a slope, I can use either of those points. I'll use this one. So y minus the y coordinate equals m times x minus the x coordinate. Let's get rid of that fraction. So we have 2y minus, I said, minus, what's that, 510, equals 7 times x minus 9. Let's get rid of those parentheses. 2y minus 510 equals 7x minus 9. Let's solve it for y. So 2y equals 7x plus 501, and then divide by 2. So our final equation is y equals 7 halves x plus 501 halves. Perfect. All right. Let me know if you have any questions.